I think we can get started then. I'd like to ask Zohaib Beg if you can just start by leading us in Tilawat.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'll be reciting chapter 112, Surah Al-Ikhlas. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. English translation: In the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful. Say, He is Allah, the One. Allah, the Independent and besought of all. He begets not, nor is He begotten, and there is none like unto Him. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah. All right, assalamu alaikum, everyone. So the topic that the Midwest region will be presenting today is navigating credit. And when we talk about credit, I guess the main question is, what exactly is credit? And credit is essentially, at the basic root, the trust extended to individuals or entities to borrow money, or if it's not money, access to goods, and there's a promise to pay that service or good or money back later. So it's an arrangement where there's a lender and a borrower, and they come to an agreed term on the amount that they're going to borrow at a certain time, and if there's an interest rate or fee when they pay that back during that time frame. Of course, this brings into question from the Islamic perspective, where do we stand on that? Because of course it is a controversial issue when we start talking about interest rates. So we just wanted to start with the clip from our beloved Hazur Anwar. Ahad, if you can please just play that clip. I can't hear the audio on that. I think you're muted, Ahad. If you could just unmute yourself on the there you go.
You must have paid some interest. The place you are working in and the payment you get from them, quite possible, is from the income which involves interest. So you cannot, you totally avoid this thing, right? This is why Hazrat Masih Maud Islam has said that in this present day banking system, there is too much up and down. It is not the same type of interest which was being charged in the olden days, where it was multiplying without any proportion. In 1 year, you will have to pay 100% interest rate. If you have taken $100 from somebody, then after 1 year, you will have to pay $1,000. So that was, this is the thing which was overburdening the people. This is why the people were not coming out of debt. So in this present day world, this system is something different. Even if you take loan from the bank, you pay some interest, but after some time, if you are unable to pay back your loan, your property will be confiscated by the bank, and they will possess that property and sell it out, right? They will sell the property and take their own money, which was their due amount, which was to be paid by you to the bank. And if there is any extra amount, that will be given to you. So this is the sort of different system of interest. So although we should not see here now, the interest is that when you give some amount to somebody with the intention of getting some extra amount. That is the clear interest which is prohibited in Islam. Or if you invest somewhere some amount with the intention of getting only profit, not loss, then it is also wrong. Other than that, you cannot say that all these things in the present day world, if you cannot, then you cannot survive in this world. If you try to avoid every type of thing, even the bread you are taking is involved some interest in it, then will you die of hunger? Whereas Quran says that if they are dying, the pork is also permitted. The dead flesh is also permitted. They're all permissible things, right? So if you are dying of hunger. Your life. Then interest in this state where in the world, this type of interest is somehow admissible, but we should not intentionally try to give money to somebody with the intention of getting profit only, or take some money from somebody with the intention of paying back without any even all. But at the same time, if you have taken loan from somebody of $100 and after the due date you want to pay back the loan and give some extra amount, $110, that is your own will, and that is not interest. And that man should accept that one. So here in the bank, sometimes banks give you the interest profit. Even we say this, it is in Islamic banking, it is said that there is an Islamic banking. There is a profit and loss. And that is also a sugar-coated type of interest. Right? So nowadays, you cannot avoid it. But you should not, even at the same time, you should not involve yourself directly in giving and taking the interest on your money. Okay?
Exactly. So as Hazur beautifully stated, in a sense, we live in a country where it's become a necessity to live off credit. You don't really have the option to run away from it. So as a promised Messiah also stated that it's good for us to understand that. And so that's the important part in navigating through the United States of America and also European countries, the importance of understanding credit and how to utilize it for your benefit. So why is credit important is kind of the main question. Credit will give you access to many opportunities at the end of the day. Credit will open doors for opportunities that might otherwise be out of reach. For example, if you were to buy a home, not a lot of us have about $400,000 or $500,000 sitting around. So what we would do is we'd go to the bank and take out a mortgage and use credit, borrow money, and make those small payments over time in order to build equity and own that home by ourselves. At the same time, it can be you can use credit to start a business. Not a lot of us have the capital, especially if you're coming from out of state, to build that business, or even going to school, or unexpected situation or expenses. So it's also important to also build financial trust, because a strong credit history at the end of the day is crucial to understanding financial trustworthiness. And banks and lenders will look at that credit score, which down the line, Ahad Bhai will kind of go into more detail about. And at the end of the day, it's about the convenience and the flexibility. Whereas credit cards and lines of credit will always offer convenience and flexibility in managing your day-to-day expenses. So it's not always coming right from your bank account, not right off coming all the cash that you have, you're putting that away. It gives you a time to kind of let those funds settle. So in essence, as Azur mentioned, and in general, just credit is just a fundamental aspect of the modern financial system. It really empowers individuals and those who are starting new businesses to achieve their goals, manage their challenges, and build a stronger financial future. Because at the end of the day, the goal of the Sanat-o-Tijarat group is to help everyone get on their feet. And I always say I think the most important thing is to have majority of us be entrepreneurs. So we are at our whim. We can dedicate our time to things that matter most, whether that be family or Jamaat work. These are the important things. So with that being said, I'll introduce the next speaker, Ahad Shafiq. He's the guide of the Chicago Jamaat, and he's also working as a manager of a bank, and he has a bit more expertise in credit and just the banking system and everything underneath that. So, guys, please, you can take over.
Ji, Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Abdullah Shafiq, and I am the Qaid Majlis for Chicago Majlis Dawul Ambiya. So the topic today, मोहतरम, I'm going to start in Urdu first. खाक सार का नाम अब्दुल्लाह शफीक है. खाक सार का ताल्लुक शिकागो मजलिस से है. खाक सार कायद मजलिस दावुल अम्बिया शिकागो है. That being said, क्रेडिट क्या है? अमेरिका में एज ऑफ राइट जहाँ हम बैठे हुए हैं, जहाँ पर क्रेडिट के बगैर एज जो करेक्ट टर्म है गुजारा नहीं है. अगर आपको जो देखा जाए, अगर आपको कोई घर खरीदना है जिसकी कीमत 3 से 4 लाख डॉलर है, उसके लिए पैसा जमा करने के लिए आपको एटलीस्ट अगर आप कैश भी लाना चाहते हैं 10 से 20 साल लग सकते हैं बनिस्बत इसके. और इसी तरह जैसे आसाइशें हैं हमारी, कुछ साल पहले एक मशहूर पॉलिटिशियन ने कहा था कि एक एवरेज अमेरिकन के पास $400 भी नहीं है सेविंग्स में इमरजेंसी फंड के. तो यहाँ पर फिर क्रेडिट का काम. क्रेडिट इज समथिंग कि आप एक बैंक्स या लेंडर जो कंपनीज हैं जो उधार देती हैं उनसे आप लेकर अपने खर्चे उतारते हैं और उनसे एक एग्रीमेंट करते हैं, और उनसे एग्रीमेंट करके उनको आगे लेकर चलते हैं कि उस एग्रीमेंट के हिसाब से आप माहाना किस्तों में उनका वो उतारते हैं. ये the purpose behind doing this webinar was to introduce more information about credit, basic information about credit to all Khuddams and Jamaat members on that part कि किस तरीके से we can improve our credit profile and work on reversal. जस्ट लाइक हमें कभी कोई बिजनेस इस्टेब्लिश करना हो तो उसके लिए भी क्रेडिट दरकार है. हर चीज़ के लिए हमें क्रेडिट की ज़रूरत है. अमेरिका में ख़ास तौर पे अमेरिका में आपका क्रेडिट के बगैर ऑलमोस्ट गुजारा इम्पॉसिबल है. दैट बीइंग सेड, हमने कुछ थोड़ी छोटी सी प्रेजेंटेशन बनाई है. अगर रीजनल नाजिम साहब इजाज़त दें तो हम शुरू करें.
जी, शुरू करना. We can begin the presentation that we started.
जी बिल्कुल, जज़ाकल्लाह. जी, सो बेसिकली जब क्रेडिट की बात करते हैं, आपका क्रेडिट स्कोर जो शुरू होता है वो इसको allow me to move this over here 300 से लेकर 850 तक. स्पेशली जो नए इमिग्रेंट्स हैं, मैंने उनके लिए बात करनी थी. जब भी या नए इमिग्रेंट्स हैं या अभी 18 साल की उम्र में जो खुद्दाम या आए हैं, उनके लिए खास तौर पर क्रेडिट एस्टेब्लिश करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. अगर आपको स्टूडेंट लोन चाहिए वो भी क्रेडिट लेगा आपसे. आपको कहीं पर गाड़ी खरीदनी है क्रेडिट दरकार हो अगर आपके पास कैश नहीं. और जहाँ तक मेरी नॉलेज है, एवरेज एवरेज अमेरिकन के पास इतना कैश नहीं है कि वो सुबह उठ जाए और गाड़ी खरीद ले. सिंपल सी बात. हम सबके पास आईफोन है, हम सबके पास है, किसी के पास भी इतने वो ताकत नहीं है. सबने वो क्रेडिट ऑनेस्टली स्पीकिंग डिस्काउंट्स अच्छे मिल जाते हैं, ऐसा लोग ले लेते हैं क्रेडिट. तो अच्छे क्रेडिट से की अच्छी बात ये होती है कि आपके लिए बहुत सारी अपॉर्चुनिटीज खुल जाती है. जैसे जैसे आपका क्रेडिट प्रोफाइल या क्रेडिट की ताकत इंप्रूव होती जाती है, कि हैबिट डेवलप हो जाती है, वैसे वैसे आपकी वो फाइनेंशियल कंपनीज, बैंक्स, फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस आपको ज़्यादा प्रेफरेंस देती है कि ये आदमी या ये इंसान या ये शख्स, इसके पास सलाहियत है या ये अपने फाइनेंस को बैलेंस कर कि ये अब अच्छा कमाना शुरू हो गया है और ये बैलेंस कर सकता है अपने अखराजात अपने क्रेडिट का, कि वो पैसे हमें कुछ नहीं मंथली कुछ ना कुछ पैसे वापस कर देता है। इस लिहाज से इसको और बेहतर क्रेडिट दिया जाए। क्रेडिट स्कोर्स की बात करते हैं हम सब में। अगर आई डोंट, मेरे ख्याल से कोई भी ऐसा शख्स इस कॉल पे नहीं है जिसके पास क्रेडिट स्कोर के बारे में 300 से शुरू होते हैं, कैन गो अप टू एज हाई एज 850। 850 means the highest credit worthiness. I have never seen, I've been in banking industry for the last almost 6 years now. I haven't seen 850, I have seen 812. But again, there's a will, there's a day. There might be a one day. Components जो है क्रेडिट स्कोर के सबसे बड़ी जो होती है, मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट जो कॉम्पोनेंट है ना आपका, वो होता है पेमेंट हिस्ट्री और क्रेडिट ब्यूरो। पेमेंट हिस्ट्री जो होती है ना, ये आपको कहते हैं 35% आपकी क्रेडिट स्कोर को मेंटेन कर। अगर आपकी क्रेडिट स्कोर पे या क्रेडिट यूजर, जब भी आपका कोई क्रेडिट हो, अगर आप या कोई लोन हो, अपनी पेमेंट नहीं मिस करिएगा। मैं आपको उस दिन बोलूंगा फाका कर लेगा, पेमेंट नहीं मिस कर। जब भी आप कोई लोन लेते हैं या क्रेडिट कार्ड लेते हैं तो उनकी एक मंथली पेमेंट, अगर आपने पेमेंट मिस की तो आपको वो ब्यूरो पे रिपोर्ट, वो अगर ब्यूरो पे एक मिस्ड पेमेंट आता है, that will last on your credit for 7 years. You can go right now check it, this negative missed payment के नाम से। क्रेडिट यूटिलाइजेशन हमेशा कहते हैं 30% से कम रखनी चाहिए। अगर आपको सपोज 10,000 की कोई क्रेडिट लिमिट है, आपकी कंबाइंड क्रेडिट लिमिट है, तो आप 3,000 तक यूज करें। दैट्स अ गुड पॉइंट। लेंथ ऑफ क्रेडिट हिस्ट्री, ये तो वो टाइम के साथ न्यू क्रेडिट इंक्वायरीज। क्रेडिट इंक्वायरीज जो कि क्रेडिट ब्यूरो को, जब भी कोई लेंडर आपसे रब्ता करता है तो वो आपको क्रेडिट वो इंक्वायरी देता है। और क्रेडिट में आपका कितने कार्ड्स पे कितना है, इंटरेस्ट कितना पे करें, इसके ऊपर डिपेंड। ठीक है। क्रेडिट रिपोर्ट्स वर्सेस क्रेडिट स्कोर्स। क्रेडिट रिपोर्ट आपकी पिछले 7 साल की पूरी हिस्ट्री बता देगी, आपने कहाँ से क्या करा कुछ। ये क्रेडिट स्कोर however will can range on a month to month basis। ठीक है। This is the main important things। Another thing, key credit terms are the credit limit। आपकी लिमिट कितनी है? और normally when you talk about credit scores, they look at the average credit limit। Suppose if you have an American Express credit card that has a limit of 5,000, then Discover another 5,000, and a Capital One another 5,000, you have a total credit limit of 15,000। ठीक है। APR is something, आपको मिनिमम वो इंटरेस्ट कितना है, minimum payment। This is what I was talking about earlier। Minimum payment is the payment that you should pay at least। अगर आप पूरा क्रेडिट कार्ड जो आपका बैलेंस है वो नहीं उतार सकते, एटलीस्ट मिनिमम पेमेंट, अदरवाइज वही बात है, 7 साल यू विल बी पनिश्ड फॉर दैट। और फिर इसी 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 की बुनियाद पर आपका क्रेडिट स्कोर मैच होता है, उसी की वजह से आपका क्रेडिट स्कोर का इम्पैक्ट होता है।
And just to get back to the basics as well, credit score, in order to have a credit score, it's all based off having a social security number. Isn't that right, Kaitam? Or and if you don't have a social security number, there's what else could they use in order to kind of get
That's a good question, Nadim Saab. You can have an ITIN number. You can have that. So again, I don't know how many, do we have any attendees who are new immigrants as of right now?
You can just raise your hand.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Anyone who does not have a credit card?
Everyone has a credit card. Oh wait, there's one. Sure.
Okay. And Usher, there's only one who does not have a credit card. Okay, so this is what I would do. Anyone with a bad credit, I don't want you to name, just put your name. Okay, the best way how to fix your credit too. I can want to go on that part too. So I don't think so it's mentioned over in the presentation, but again, how many of you know about secured cards? No one? Melissa knows about it. So I will go first about, so one of the best ways to improve your credit, and I would say improve or build a credit. So basically, God forbid something happened and you just came out of it, now your credit score is tanked and you need to improve that. The best way is a secured card. What is a secured card, you may ask? Secured card is borrowing against a secured line. So that being said, so basically what you do is like you put some cash down. Normally, again, it could be start as low as I think one bank offers it for $300, and you will use the open it. They will give you a credit card for $300 limit, and you use that card and pay it off. Use that card and pay it off and go from there. This is a brilliant card for new immigrants or people who want to repair their credit, as this encourages people. It gives rebuilds the confidence in you and especially in the lenders that how can this individual. That being said, if you're in collections at that time, it will not. So you need to make sure that you're not in collections or things like that. So make sure that you are fixed on that. Otherwise, the minute you're in collections, there's no way getting out of it. You need to pay it unless you can negotiate with them and pay it off. So, but again, secured card is one of the ways you can get repair your credit to back to 800s. जी नादिम साहब.
Gee, no, I think I was just going to say the importance of having a credit card is really essential into succeeding at time, because sometimes you always heard the word cash is king, always use debit, always use, whatever you have on you. That is probably some of the worst things you can do. If you have the option, whether that is to buy, let's even say your groceries, let's just say some type of electronics, an iPhone, or when it comes to your car, why would you put your own money up front? Like, let's say you get a car, right? And you get into an accident, God forbid. That is your money that is gone right away because you put all your money that you had invested in that car and it's gone. So the benefit is always to use where the bank's money, always use the other person's money, the bank's money, in order to finance situations like this. Because at the end of the day, assets are always going to be depreciating. So the most important thing is to borrow for certain things. When it comes to even just like your everyday purchases, when it comes to groceries, when it comes to haircuts, medical appointments, stuff like that, always use money from a credit card, because if something goes wrong, if you buy an iPhone that breaks, you can go back to these credit card companies. They have these protection plans. They have a lot of coverage where if you use your own money, you don't have anymore. You use your own money, that money's gone. Whereas if you use someone else's money, it's in their interest to help you get that money back. So these are this hidden tricks that a lot of people use, is when you borrow someone else's money, they'll make sure to go above and beyond, where if you get scammed, where if something goes wrong, they'll go above and beyond to help you recover the loss of an asset or the loss of an electronic. You can continue, guys.
The one more advantage that I wanted to mention, since you mentioned scam, I think I was looking at the attendees. I think 70% of attendees that I know have been living in America for a while. And I'm pretty sure all of you have actually been caught up to a phishing attempt or a scam attempt. My credit card has been compromised a few times. And again, being part of the banking industry for the last 5 years, especially during COVID, scams were quite high. Let me tell you an interesting story. Whenever, again, if it's your money, if you use your debit card or cash on that part, money gone, especially with a debit card, it's quite hard to get it. However, with cash, with credit card, actually, you have zero liability. All you have to do is like say to the credit card company that it wasn't me, and they'll figure it. And this has been, again, I've been a part of a major bank, and same thing. During COVID, I still remember there were a few cases that I dealt personally. I was personally involved in those cases, and the individuals had zero liability for credit card. So back then, however, whenever individuals involved with debit card scams, although they will get the money back, the money gets tied up. So that's an additional advantage on that point. Let's go back to the presentation, sir. So we mentioned, I mentioned earlier about secured credit cards. And another way is becoming an authorized user. Becoming an authorized user, although has a minimal impact, but it gives your name in the credit profile. And again, this person has been part of the, I would say, the credit bureaus. Then again, same thing, building credit responsibility. The key for having a good credit score, a good credit profile is paying off the balance each month. That way, the best part, you don't need to deal with the interest. Suppose, for the sake of argument, you spend $1,000 in a month on your groceries or anything, just pay it off completely. I'm not talking anything. Again, the best part, that basically encourages the lenders on a sense that, okay, this person, Mr. A, has spent a decent chunk of money, $1,000 in it, and he was able to pay it off. That means that he's responsible in that part. We have a question.
Did someone raise their hand?
Yeah.
We can take all the questions at the end. We're going to stop around 9:40, 9:45-ish, so we'll be able to take all the questions at the end.
The building blocks of good credit. Yes, as I said, make on-time payments to show reliability and responsibility. Keep credit utilization low to demonstrate financial discipline. Diversify credit types. So same thing. आपने अपनी पेमेंट मिस नहीं करनी. मैं फिर से ये बात रिपीट कर रहा हूँ और मैं करता रहूंगा. अगर आपने अपनी पेमेंट मिस की, आप अपने पापा को लड़ी मारेंगे. अगर आपको सिर्फ अगर फाका करना पड़ा है, फाका करें प्लीज, अपना पेमेंट मिस. और सारी चीजें एक तरफ, ये अगर आपने पेमेंट मिस की, सब कुछ खराब. और अपने क्रेडिट कार्ड्स को एक और एडवाइस मैं ये दूंगा, इसमें नहीं है, अपने आप को कलेक्शन में जाने से. ये जो चीजें होती हैं, कलेक्शन हो गई, मिस पेमेंट्स होती हैं, ये 7-7 साल आपकी क्रेडिट रिपोर्ट में रहती है. और जब फिर आप जाते हैं, ये मेरा घर अप्रूव नहीं, मेरा घर अप्रूव नहीं हुआ, वो इसी वजह से अप्रूव नहीं हुआ. ये मेरा लोन अप्रूव नहीं हुआ, वो इस वजह से नहीं होता कि भले आपने उस वक्त आपके पास पैसे, आप पैसे आ गए, उस वक्त पैसे नहीं थे, तो अब नहीं है. उनको, लेंडर्स को ये लगता है कि आप अभी शायद पैसे अब आ गए, अगली तो दोबारा अगर पैसे खत्म हो गए तो आपने फिर वही. तो मैं आपसे बस ये कोशिश कर रिक्वेस्ट आई विल हम्बली रिक्वेस्ट ऑल मेक श्योर दैट यू नो दिस, कि अपनी मेक श्योर दैट मिनिमम पेमेंट. Otherwise, again, if you don't go for the minimum payment, what will happen? They will charge you a late fee. After that, the interest will be charged, and then you have to go again. That you will go into debt, and after 30 days, you are reported to the bureaus.
Yeah, I think the difference between credit cards and traditional loans, which you will get for a car payment, like if you get a car loan or a house mortgage, those interest rates generally, even now, are under 10%. With the credit card, if you only pay the minimum each month and you have a balance remaining, that interest rate is closer to 18 to 25%. So that adds up a lot, even if it's a small balance. So that's why it's very important to pay that credit card off fully each month. And you should treat having a credit card just like you're using your own money, but use the benefits of a credit card for protection of your money and protection of whatever thing you buy, and using someone else's money because you have that initial help, as we discussed before. Those are the benefits of the credit card. But don't think about a credit card as free money, something you can pile your bills on, because that will decrease your credit score, will decrease you as a trustworthy borrower, and C, your bills will add up and they will compound at an exponential rate because of the interest that is going to be added each month. So as Gaitsa mentioned, just make sure you pay off that credit card in full each month. That's the best way to go about it.
Some of the myths that we have, again, this is for somebody experienced with this. Closing credit card improves the credit score. Checking your credit report hurts your credit score. You only need one credit card for a good credit score. So closing a credit card improves your credit, not necessary. Because whenever you close a credit card, जब भी आप अपना credit card close करते हैं तो आपकी total credit limit भी कम होती है. अगर आपके पास उस credit utilization अगर suppose आपका 2 credit cards हैं और दोनों 10-10 हजार के हैं की लिमिट वाले हैं और एक क्रेडिट कार्ड आप बंद करते हैं, आप ये लिमिट ऑटोमेटिकली 50% कम हो गई. और अगर सपोज एट द टाइम जब आपके दोनों क्रेडिट कार्ड थे तब आपका जो टोटल डेट थी 5,000 थी, वो जो कि 25% थी, which was less below than 50%, 30%. अब द मिनट यू क्लोज वन कार्ड और वो 50% कम हो गई लिमिट, आपकी लिमिट, आपकी जो डेट यूटिलाइजेशन है वो भी 50% पहुंच गई. आपका क्रेडिट स्कोर टैंक कर जाए, नीचे कर जाए. Checking on credit reports hurts your credit score? Not really. Again, there's this website. I really want to share this with you guys if you need it. It's called annualcreditreport.com. You can, this is by the state, by the American government. Basically, you can order free 3 times a year. You can request all the major credit unions, credit bureaus. You can get a free copy of it 3 times, any time. So that basically helps you on that part, and this is the best part. This report, whenever you print a report from this report, even it will show you the soft checks. So there are 2 checks basically on your credit bureaus. There's a soft check and a hard check. Hard check is a hard inquiry when it's usually used when an account is being opened. However, soft checks, any credit bureaus normally run on your profile every 6 months to make sure everything is correct. That they think that they are doing good on your credit or not. So annualcreditreport.com, you can get a free copy of the credit report. Similarly, I would recommend all of you to have a basic membership of any of the credit bureaus. I think one of the bureaus, I think Experian charges $1 once and it's free, so you can always get a copy of your report. ठीक है. Let's repeat this in Urdu to make sure. आप जब भी अगर आपको लगता है, एक कॉमन मिथ है कि क्रेडिट कार्ड बंद करने से आपका स्कोर बढ़ जाएगा, कम हो जाएगा, बढ़ जाएगा. हालांकि ऐसा नहीं है. अगर आपके पास 2 क्रेडिट कार्ड है, दोनों की लिमिट 10,000 ईच है और आपकी क्रेडिट यूटिलाइजेशन जो है वो 5,000 है, तो और आप एक कार्ड बंद करते हैं तो आपकी क्रेडिट यूटिलाइजेशन के 25% से कम थी, 25% थी. अब क्रेडिट जो आपकी यूटिलाइजेशन है वो 50% पे चली गई क्योंकि आपने एक कार्ड बंद कर दिया, तो उसकी वजह से आपका क्रेडिट स्कोर गिर सकता है. इसी तरह चेकिंग क्रेडिट रिपोर्ट चेक करने से आपका स्कोर गिर सकता है. नहीं, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है. आप annualcreditreport.com एक वेबसाइट है जिसका मैंने जिक्र किया थोड़ी देर पहले. You can go back on that website and download a free copy of your report anytime. 3 times a year, it's free of cost. ठीक है ना. और ये जो कहावत, you only need one credit card for a good credit score, not really. You can have as many credit cards as you want as long as you are able to pay them off. ठीक है. Let's go to the next slide. Choosing the right credit card. So this is something very interesting. On that part, I would request Regional Nazim Saab. He can do much better justice to this than me. The Regional Nazim Saab, he was actually the one who convinced me to change my card. So go for it.
So what I'll do after is when we send out this link, the recording, I'll also include a list of the best credit cards. So the benefit of having a credit card, people generally will run away from credit cards that have annual fees, right? You see a $200 annual fee or $400 annual fee and people run away. But which people don't realize is a lot of the benefits that come with those credit card fees are much worth it. And they are actually, not only do you get your $200 back, but you get an extra $300-400 on top of it. So these credit cards will offer benefits like we'll give you a travel credit for $300 or $200 in a year. You will, every time you spend your money at a grocery store, you get points back. And at the end of the day, probably in about 5 months of grocery shopping, these things that you're going to do, regardless of whether you have a credit card or not, whether you're going to go to the grocery store. So if you put it on specific credit cards, you get points back. And after about 6-7 months, you will be able to actually get your groceries for free on the 7th month. So these points add up and compound a lot. So after this webinar ends, I'm going to include a link with some of the best credit cards that not only offer you the best protection if you're buying, let's say, furniture for your home, let's say you're buying some type of electronic or something of that sort, but also give you the point. So every time you spend $100, you're getting $1 back. So, and not only that, is a lot of these credit cards will have these introduction bonus offers where you open up a credit card, and as Gaetza mentioned, it's good to diversify and have multiple credit cards. But a lot of these credit cards will say if you spend, let's say, $3,000 within the first 3 months of opening it, you will get 100,000 points. And it kind of just goes over your head, but those 100,000 points can be used is equivalent to about $1,800 in traveling. So that's free trips for if you're going to be going to the Ijtima, if you're going to Jalsa, if you want to go anywhere else with the family, you have that money to use points. And I think that's a whole separate webinar, which I can get into. So maybe we'll do something on that, is just how to use those points to fund different parts of your life and how to get those points free by using different credit cards. But these are the benefits of having these credit cards. And as guys mentioned a little earlier, having multiple credit cards does not hurt your credit score, where people just think you need one credit card. If you have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it'll actually truly benefit your credit score because the line of credit that you have increases. And so it'll show that you have a $150,000 line of credit, but you're only using 1,000 of it. And so that shows that that big variance of how much you use versus how much you have available, that'll also show. So that's one thing. And then the next thing is just getting those points and having all those points that you have from different credit cards, those intro offers, and having those points add up to use them in different parts of your life. And I'll put something small together in terms of the best credit cards, but maybe sometime National Ultimate Sub, we can do a session at an Ishmael or something just on how to properly use those points to really save you money throughout the year and utilizing credit cards to the fullest ability. Back to you. So.
Ji, Jazakallah. So that being said, we are not endorsing any credit cards. We are not doing anything on that part. So just an FYI. And again, that being said, again, since Nadim Sahab also mentioned this, that again, having multiple cards is not a bad thing, but I would also recommend do not start opening right today all the cards. If you start doing that, they will sense something is off.
Yes.
So again, because it's also a habit, again, since we're living in America, the country where scams are quite prevalent, please use your credit quite properly, in a sense that do not give your details out to anyone. Again, because again, there have been incidences where people have utilized other people's credit, and again, they have been a victim of identity theft. So since we mentioned identity theft, I think if you have a Visa-powered credit card, not an offers free identity protection for that. So again, just an FYI, even if you have a Visa-powered debit card, Norton the antivirus is also offers either identity theft protection from that through that free of cost. So something to think about. let's go further. Loans and lines.
Okay, so we do have I think around 9:45-ish. We want to stop and just have
So
questions.
let's stop. Okay, let's stop this. We can continue it on it. Do we have any questions?
So I can ask Multiple Musab, if there's no other questions, did you want to how did you want to move forward with this?
I actually had I had a kind of a brief question if you can help. So one of the pitfalls people have is when they first get a credit card is that you have this unlimited supply and sometimes we overspend and we don't realize how much we've spent until the bill comes at the end of the month. And so even though I'm a senior khadim now, but sometimes I still fall into this trap at the end of the month where I realize I spent a lot more than I could really maybe afford. So do you have any guidance on the most effective way? I know you mentioned it's best to pay it off, but um yeah, keeping track of it can be a challenge, and that's how they kind of feel like get you.
That's a great question, Motul, since you mentioned this. So some of the credit cards do offer a service where you can limit your spending spree and they notify you on that part if you have spent more than $500 a month on that credit card. The minute you hit 500, you will get an email or notification that hey, you have hit this number. And again, that being said, they should. This is what I recommend to every client of mine. There should be a calculator running behind your head, in your head. How much have you spent on your credit card this month? You are the best judge of your expenses. No one else is.
Yeah, and I think it's very important to know that even though you're borrowing money, it's very easy to just think about it as free money, but you have to understand that this is money that you're going to have to pay back. And it's very easy, aside from, yes, of course, credit cards are great, taking loans are great. It's very easy to drown yourself in all this debt with all this free money coming to you and not even notice until it's kind of you're at the end of, just on a financial collapse. So you have to be very smart. So as soon as you start opening one or two credit cards, at the same time, you should have a methodology where if you're going to be entering this world of credit, you also have to have a methodology of being organized in the sense of have a tracking sheet, have some type of sheet or some type of document, whether that's Excel. Nowadays on iPhone, there's all these apps that'll monitor every single transaction that happens. And you need to track it really diligently to make sure that you are spending what you already have. And that is budgeting your entire month out for the necessities. And then once those necessities are paid off, then you go down to, okay, what are some extra things that I need? But to make sure you have the bare necessities done for the month, and then you can add on extra, seeing how much extra you have. So forming good habits and forming a good budget is probably the most important thing before you start borrowing someone's money. So I always say I don't recommend to ever borrow money, open up a credit card, or do something of that sort until you're confident in your budgeting capabilities and knowing you know how to manage and track your money efficiently. Because if you're still kind of lost in that phase of not being organized, then I think hold off on the credit cards and doing something of that sort, and just make sure you have all your finances organized before you borrow someone else's money.
Exactly. And again, this is something what I would also recommend on apart from this, if you are going for a bigger purchase. So, and you want to use your credit card for the rewards, I would not recommend. I would recommend a non-rewards card with 0% APR on purchases. That way you don't end up paying interest. And again, you can space out your expense for 12 months. Again, this is my personal opinion. Nobody has to follow it. But again, that's something an idea on that point.
Were there any other questions? So if there weren't any other questions, did you want to close it up by doing silent prayer?
Gee, Read Nazim Saab, with your permission, I'd like to just say one small thing,
Of course.
and then we'll end with dua. I think one concept that we should just remember, even these credit and these loans that we get, if we treat them like a money, it's a trust that we have to give back. And so that's what Islam teaches us is anything you were given is a trust, and you have to return it. It's a trust. And so getting a loan from a corporation or getting a loan from a friend or a family member is still, regardless of where you get it from, it is still a trust. And so as Muslims, everything, trust is and honesty and um, that is all part of our faith. And so we should always keep that in mind when we do, ever take loans. We should never take them with the intent that we're not going to pay them back. And so this is also applicable to credit cards, and so sometimes we may get ideas from external parties to here's one way you can get away from paying your loan. But Allah Ta'ala is always watching, so we should always keep that in mind. So this trust that we get, that's something we don't want to ever, because Allah Ta'ala is watching. So I'll end it here. Let's join in dua, and we'll end the session early. Dua kar lein. Ameen. Jazakumullah.
Jazakallah, and Jazakallah everyone for attending.